Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today's episode is no bite-sized episode. This is a big topic and huge conversation in the small business world. And I know you're going to love it as the listener. I have a very special guest with me. I have the Price Whisperer with us. We're talking about pricing and how to price your product the right way. So Per Sjöfors, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Well, Brandon, it's a pleasure to be on the show, and I hope I can provide some practical and valuable advice to your audience.
I have no doubt you will. And worst case scenario, we just delete the episode if you don't. So either way, we can't lose, right?
That's right.
I'm kidding, but no, this really is a hot topic, and I've talked to probably over the years thousands of entrepreneurs at this point, and this is the one thing that people always get hung up on. How do I price?
Mm-hmm.
Should I be Walmart? Should I be Nordstrom? Should I just match the guy down the street? Where do you want to start in this conversation? Because it is such a big one.
Well, it is a big one because everything you do in your company affects how you price. Just like you alluded to, how are you positioned? Are you positioned like the sort of stack 'em high, sell them cheap, or are you more positioned as a luxury brand, or are you somewhere in between? And your pricing strategy must be congruent with how you position your company. And in some cases, it is not, and those becomes business failures. And that could go either way, you know. If you have, like, if you sell something like it is a commodity, and you price yourself as a luxury goods, is not going to work very well. And the opposite, you're going to leave oodles of money on the table that you rightfully earn. So it is a big topic, and like I said, everything in your company affects how you can price, and how you go to market, how you target your customers, how you your sales methodologies, and everything. If you look at the mistakes that you want to avoid as an entrepreneur, as a new company, you don't want to use your cost as basis for your price, because that always leaves money on the table. Yes, you should know your cost, but that is that is not how you should excuse me, set your price. Likewise, you should not look at a competitor and try to do the same thing, because that just leads to commoditization, loss of pricing power, and once you enter the commoditization death spiral, it's almost impossible to get out. And thirdly, use any kind of combination of guesses and gut feel, or sort of say, I know what the market will bear, which is another euphemism for guessing. All of these are methods that loads of companies, actually 88% of American businesses, use these methods, one of these message or a combination of these message to price. The remaining 12% use value-based pricing, where they can actually assess the value that they give to their customers, which may be an actual value, or it may be an emotional value, or likewise, but a value that their customers are willing to pay for. And when you price to the value you deliver, you typically end up as the market leader.
I think this is a fascinating conversation. I did not know the number was that high. I didn't know it was 88% really are just throwing spaghetti at the wall. for
Yep.
lack of a better term here.
Yep.
But I had a mentor introduce this concept to me: cost-based versus value-based pricing, probably maybe close to a decade ago at this point. And it was so interesting because it was in an industry where most were just commodities and it was all cost-based pricing.
Mhm.
So let's forget about the 88% for a minute and just assume that the listeners, myself included, if not now, have been in that category at some point. How do we shift ourselves to the 12% and actually develop a pricing strategy that works and positions us for success?
Well, the easiest way to do this, if we look at a small company, mid-sized company even, and what you want to do, and I have there's a way of actually understanding the monetized value of your product, of your service, that the buyers perceive, because that is the value. And you can do it very elaborately, which is what we do in my company. But if you if you don't have those kind of resources, there's a way you can do this, and this it consists of the following little process. You go out and you find at least 25, 50 is better, at least 25 potential buyers. These are not your friends and family, absolutely not. They are not your current prospects, and they are not your current customers, but there are people that you think could be your customer. Um, if you're in B2C, how do you find them? Maybe you sort of go to your local Starbucks and other coffee shops and you approach people and you say, "Can I ask you a couple of questions?" If you're in B2B, maybe you do the same on LinkedIn, right? So you approach at least 25, better 50 people, and you explain your product or service, and then you ask them two questions. It's only two questions, and those questions need to be phrased very specifically. And the first question will be, now that you know the value that we bring with our product or service, what is a price that you think that we are over promising and going to under deliver? So for that purpose, for that reason, sorry, you decide not to purchase, right? And then you continue and you say, and now let's look at the flip side. Now you understand our product or service, you understand the value that we bring, but let's say that you believe that we are under promising and going to over deliver. What is still a price that is so high that you can't afford it for various reasons, and for that reason you would not buy? Then you take the average of those 2 points, and suddenly you have the range of your prices, right? And obviously you want to be close to the top end price, because that's where your profits are higher.
Right.
So if you can't find 25 potential customers to interview, or 50 potential customers to interview, you have bigger problems than pricing.
That's a great point. On that, when you're talking to them and when you're saying, "Can I explain my product or service to you?"
Mhm.
You gave examples of, a coffee shop or LinkedIn. These interactions can't be that long. What
No.
exactly are you saying to them to express the true value proposition, which work should be done in advance, but how do you convey that in what, 30, 60 seconds? Like, how long are you talking to
Well,
these people?
you approach these people and you say, I mean, can I ask you a few questions? It takes a couple of minutes, and I'm really happy if you can say yes. And obviously, you'll get more no's than yeses. But it's really a method that works. And um, and obviously, you have to know your elevator pitch. And there's ways of many different ways of developing an elevator pitch, but the one that I prefer is the one that was defined by Jeffrey Moore in his book Crossing the Chasm. And I honestly don't remember it right now, but you can Google Crossing the Chasm and elevator pitch, and it's about a method to condense your value proposition down to less than 30-second speech.
I was going to ask you what it was, but then you said you didn't remember it. So we'll put that in the show notes as far as the book Crossing the Chasm, and you can look that up yourself. But I think that's awesome. So once you have this information, you've talked to a focus group, we'll call them, of 25 to 50. Then you go out and you actually price your product. I guess you have to assume that in this group of 25 to 50, they are at least remotely close to your ideal client.
Yes,
what happens when you actually price it? What are we analyzing then when people start consuming this product or service?
Well, first of all, you need to realize that those who don't buy is more important than those who buy, because it's for those who don't buy that growth is going to come from. Whereas those who already are committed to your company, yes, obviously you want to sell more to them, and you want to make sure that they are your promoters and so forth. But at the end of the day, they are going to be a fairly small portion of the market compared to those that didn't buy for whatever reason. So as you do this little survey, if you like, or you call it focus group, you continue to do it. You don't stop, and as you get more and more information, you need to talk. When you talk to these people, you need to grab some very basic information. If you're in consumer goods, maybe age and gender and a few other things, and and obviously, if you, depending on where you live, you can do these interviews in low income areas, in high income areas, and so forth. And once you amass maybe 100, 125 of these, and you have this information, you can start seeing if there are differences between different genders, or if it's B2B, different titles, or different sizes of companies, or different industries, and so forth. And you can start honing in on the customer category where you will have the highest ability to charge more profitable prices at the same time as your sales volume goes up.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'm curious about the other side of this conversation, which I've heard all over the internet, and I just couldn't disagree with it more, which is just charge more for your product because the perception or the perceived value will increase. Now, I don't see McDonald's being able to take a Big Mac and charge $42 for it and have my perception of that Big Mac be increased. Forget the brand and the label and the colors and all of that. I've been at restaurants where they serve a $42 hamburger, and if you put a Big Mac next to it, it's nothing of the sort. So how do you actually make sure that your product has the quality to where you'd be able to raise your prices and charge a premium for it, and you're not just putting out Big Macs into the world? That I assume that's part of the conversation of price.
Well, it really goes back to what we started to talk about, that the how your prices need to match the perceptions of value of the clients, and and just by increasing price by itself does not increase perception of value. It can do in some cases, when you do something that is very unique. And let me tell you a little story. Maybe 15 years ago, there was a Swiss watch company that made a series of watches made from steel that they had managed to recover from the Titanic. they charge these. The price for these watches was $375 a pop, and they sold out the entire series in 2 weeks. Right.
That seems a
So
little underpriced to me.
they were underpriced, exactly, and obviously when it comes to luxury goods, the high price itself is what makes it luxury. But if you're not in luxury goods, um, the story is different. You have to be within some range. For example, mistakes. I don't know if you remember, maybe 15 years ago, Volkswagen came out with this luxury car called Phaeton. Spectacular failure, because maybe 20 years ago, maybe even 25 years ago, probably the best car that has ever been built. And nobody goes to a Volkswagen dealership and pay at the time 80,000 for a Volkswagen, right? And now Jeep has the same problem, because they come up with something that I think they call the Grand Wagoneer,
Yep.
and it's 120,000. People don't go to, and it doesn't sell at all, because people don't buy a Jeep for 120,000, no matter how
Question on
good
this,
it is.
because I fully agree with you, and I think this causes confusion to the consumer, which ultimately it puts people on both ends in a state of confusion. They're like, is Jeep a luxury brand, or is it Jeep that we all know? And you actually have less buyers on both ends. But this is why you see brands like Toyota and Lexus. It's the same company. It's just
That's
branded
right.
differently. Is that why you see brands doing things like that?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it was it was at one point I ran the European subsidiary of a Japanese company, so I spent a lot of time in Japan, of course. And I was really surprised when Lexus came out with this LS 400, and it was a Toyota Celsior. you know.
Yeah, real creative, guys.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. The business strategy and pricing need to match, and 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 the it's so important to understand that um, pricing um, pricing doesn't live in a vacuum. Everything you do in your company affects how you can price, and and if you're in let me give you a B2B example, and I'm not going to tell exactly what the company is, because you can then identify it. But long story short, they based on our advice, they changed the way they propose their fairly expensive systems installations, and we're talking 40, 80, 150 grand, in that range. And because buyers wanted to pay in a different way. They saw it on a per unit cost than a whole system cost. So once they started to charge, and I checked with the CEO 3 weeks ago, and he said, since we changed the way we propose from sort of big bang project to a per unit cost, we haven't lost a single deal.
Wow.
And this was at a price uplift of about 25%. So
Was it a matter of
matching
just
how,
seeing a smaller number?
because they don't have to make the calculation. Okay,
Yeah.
what is this big bang thing compared to the unit that I'm really interested in? I don't want to make that calculation. So here the calculation is done for me, and because of that, I'm more willing to buy.
This is great. This is so fascinating. Uh, like I said in the beginning, this is a conversation it's so complex and it's so confusing for people. And now I know why, because of the stats that you offered in the beginning, 88% of people don't actually do this math and figure
No,
out how they need to price.
no,
So,
that's right.
Per, I can't thank you enough for coming here today. We've only scratched the surface, so let me say that too. By no means is this a masterclass in pricing. If the audience member, the listener, wants to go a little bit deeper and learn more about this, where can they go and learn more about you?
Well, oddly enough, on the website, Sjöfors.com, there is a masterclass in pricing.
Would you look at that? No need to even listen to this
You
episode.
can also read this book.
The
Right.
Price Whisper. For those of you listening and not watching, The Price Whisper is the title of the book, and we'll make sure to put a link to that in the show notes down below as well.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Per, well, thank you so much for being here. I really
Well,
appreciate
thank
your
you.
time.
Thank
For
you
those
so
of you,
much, and I hope the audience got a little nugget of information here they like.
oh, I promise they did. It's a matter of, will you implement and act on what you learned, or
That's
at
right.
least go watch the masterclass or pick up a copy of the book? Because
Yeah.
if you're leaving money on the table, I mean, it's nobody's fault but your own at this point. So wherever you are watching, listening, I don't know, hologram, who knows the technology that's going to be out in the next couple of months. Make sure you subscribe. And of course, all of the show notes and everything has the links, the book, everything we talked about today down there, so you can go check it out. We want to see you back on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at lunch so we can help you build a more harmonious business and life. We'll see you there.